It's the Astros pregame presented by Toyota. Mother Nature having some fun here today. The fans not so much walking in from their cars. An absolute deluge down here in downtown Houston. But hey, we've got a roof, and they'll put it to good use tonight, because tonight the Houston Astros continuing the 7-game homestand. That is our vantage point right there. We welcome you inside Minute Maid Park. The Astros going for their 22nd win of the season. It is game 2 of a 3-game series with the Kansas City Royals, and the second of a 7-game homestand. We are 35 minutes away from first pitch. You'll see it right here on AT&T Sportsnet. Alongside Brian Bogie, I'm Kevin Eschenfelder. It is good to welcome you in. It's good to see the Astros continuing to do what they do, and that is win games at home. And it was also nice to see that the bats made it through customs, because they swung the bats well again last night.
Yeah, the power that was on display down in Mexico really showed up literally from the first batter of the game for the Astros. Springer led off with a homer. Garrett Cole, from a stuff standpoint, was as good as we've seen, and then a couple really nice defensive plays at the end sealed the deal.
All right, our HEB leadoff spot wasn't just about the 3 home runs or Garrett Cole's pitching. It's about a lot of defense as well in that 6-4 win. 3 homers last night, but let's get to the 8th inning when the Astros needed to make some plays defensively, and they did.
Yeah, Will Harris flashing the leather, representing the pitchers out there. He used to be an infielder himself, but you know, a lot of times defense gets overlooked on this team with the power pitching and the depth of the lineup. But the Astros really won the game with defense last night at the end.
Correa makes this play look a lot easier than it is. There's not a lot of big league shortstops make that play.
No, his arm strength is so incredible that a play like that's a really high degree of difficulty looks easy. And then Altuve just decided he wasn't going to use a glove for the last 2 innings of the game.
Exactly. And not only did he save, Altuve may have saved a run, and Yuli may have saved a run as well. And I mean in the most literal sense, 2 runs, as that was a 1-run game. If Yuli doesn't make that stretch on a throw that was a little bit wide on a tough play, 2 runs could have scored in that situation.
Really a tough play on both ends there. Altuve comes in for the bare hand. If he whiffs on that bare hand, that's 2 runs. If Yuli doesn't get the stretch and the ball gets past him, 2 runs, and the Astros are down going into the 9th.
All right, the Astros tonight trying to keep that thing going and win their 4th straight as they take on this Kansas City Royals team. A Kansas City Royals team that, quite frankly, has struggled. Now, after last night's game, Robinson Chirinos talked about watching his teammates make some plays.
We were in the cage like 5 minutes ago, and I tell Jose, without his 2 plays last night, we probably end up losing that game last night. You know, like his play, they were key for us to win that game. Even Carlos in shortstop. I mean, Harry in the mound, that chopper, Hamilton hit everybody. Michael, last play of the game. I mean, I feel like everybody not only doing their team hitting wise, but they're concentrating, doing a lot of good things in the field too.
You know, you and I were around, and Robinson Chirinos talking about being around the cage, because we were around the cage too when Robinson Chirinos was down there. He just looks like a guy that is very happy right now, happy that he made a decision and he is in Houston now playing on a winning team.
Yeah, I didn't know Robinson Chirinos before he came over here to Houston, but he looks happy to be here. I think he's really bought into the Astros and wants to be a part of this.
Yeah, and I think Martin Maldonado looks at him and says, "Man,
oh, he's jealous. He's jealous.
Could have been me." Let's find out what we'll be talking about here over the next half hour here on the Astros pregame, presented by Toyota, because the Astros, big key to beating the Royals is keeping that speed off the bases, because the Royals have a ton of it. Carlos Correa just keeps on hitting. Day ins and wide, seems like he gets a hit. In fact, 16 straight games he'll look to extend the longest hitting streak of his career. And Colin McHugh is on the mound for the Astros. It's been a rough go the last couple times out for Colin McHugh. He'll look to right the ship. We talk all about it coming up on the Astros pregame, presented by Toyota. Astros pregame on AT&T Sportsnet is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. And by Xfinity, the future of awesome. Astros and Royals coming up. It is a Twitter Tuesday. You can tweet us at ATT Sportsnet Southwest, or SW, I should say. We want to know super sluggers. As far as the sluggers that you have seen, the best ones that you have seen, in person or on TV, or your favorite slugger from the past. Tweet us your memories using the hashtag Astros Tuesday. You might be on the telecast. So I defer to you, Brian Bogue 7. Best sluggers.
The best pure power that I've ever seen is Giancarlo Stanton, and to be honest with you, it's not even really a close second to it. Maybe Aaron Judge is a close second, but Giancarlo Stanton hits balls where nobody else hits balls.
I'm going to go Mark McGwire at hit the peak of his, for whatever the case may be. That was about as good as I saw. Best hitter you ever saw?
Best hitter I've ever seen was probably peak Albert Pujols. We got to see him a lot when he was in St. Louis here in Houston, and I've never seen anybody put together the quality at bat day in and day out as Albert Pujols. I'm
going to go Tony Gwynn, and then because Art Howe always says this, and when Art Howe says it, I believe it. Barry Bonds, he said, was the hardest, the toughest out he ever managed against.
I'm not going to argue with that.
All right. Let's get more on this matchup today. It is a Game of Thrones night. I know Julia Morales, you got a chance to sit on the Iron Throne, did you not?
I have not yet. I went out there. Robinson Chirinos did, but I let him have his moment. I can't take that away from him. So give me a second. I'll be out there shortly as soon as this game gets going, maybe. And Blemmer probably wants to get out there as well. But yeah, I got a chance to catch up with Colin McHugh, who's pitching on Game of Thrones night here at Minute Maid Park. And Colin, we look back at that last start for him. I haven't seen him this frustrated after a game and post-game interviews, and I can't even remember. You think about how good his 2018 year was, so there wasn't a lot of frustration with that. But he was really disappointed in himself, and he went 6 innings, so he battled through after a really tough start for him. And when you look at his year, the 3-3, his winner, 3-3 with an ERA over 4. So his numbers aren't exactly where he wants them. So we've seen really, really good Colin, and then a couple of starts that have really kind of messed up that ERA for him. So as he's moved back into a starter, that transition wasn't real difficult, but there are things he's starting to remember now as he is in this starting role, taking him back to 2017 when he did it last. I did get a chance to catch up on that, as well as the Royals and how he'll face him today. Take a listen.
Really just move forward. I was doing things, I feel like I was doing things well early on in the year in terms of mechanically, just with my body, moving in the right ways, moving in the right direction. And I've gotten a little sidetracked in terms of, I don't know whether it's getting a little tired or whatever the case is. It's kind of the season tends to go like this as a starting pitcher. And I was talking to Peacock about it the other day. You remember that. But you remember it while you're in the midst of it, which is tough because in the bullpen you're like every day you got to be ready to go. So you're kind of on this level the whole season. As a starter, you kind of got to ride these waves of being good and being mediocre and being tough, being rough, and then having to come back up. So it's about putting whatever in the past behind you and working on staying mechanically sound and try to keep it simple.
Their speed at the top. I mean, what challenge does that present to pitchers?
It's unique. There's a couple teams that have that same bent. I remember when we played Seattle. They didn't have it at the top of the lineup necessarily, but they had Malik Smith at the bottom of the lineup and then roll it back over to D. Gordon at the top. And we saw in one of those games what giving those guys bases can do, because they can make damage happen quickly once they get on the bases and then guys behind them driving them in. And this team's kind of the same way. They can get on base, they can move runners, they can steal, they can do a couple things that some teams might not be so proficient at. So you got a game plan for it, and really at the end of the day, make quality pitches and keep those guys off base.
So as you can tell from this interview, he is in a much better place given it has been a few days. He's ready to go. He got a chance to watch Garrett Cole, who did a nice job of keeping the Royals off the base paths for the most part, and for Colin, it's going to be much of the same. Just really just get these guys out of the plate. Don't even let them on to first, because that's when things get real exciting for that Royals team, and everybody knows that. You just let the defense work behind you as well. They've done a really, really nice job. I know you guys were talking about that earlier, but they've got so much confidence right now, so they hope to just keep it rolling. Colin's just got to do what Colin did earlier in this season and really find that command, have that good slider, and he'll be just fine tonight against Kansas City, guys.
All right, thank you very much, Julia. 119th career start tonight for Colin McHugh. He's 57-33. There's only 3 pitchers that have a better winning percentage in an Astros uniform. 2 of those, one is Roger Clemens, the other one is Roy Oswalt. Last time out, you know, a bit of a rocky start against the Minnesota Twins, and it's been a little bit different sledding for Colin McHugh the last few starts.
Yeah, and a couple things. First of all, it's kind of an unfair comparison to go Colin McHugh last year versus this year and expect the same results in the rotation versus the pen. But from the first couple starts of this year to the last few starts, what's been different? I think really it's been the execution of the slider. He throws his slider so much more than any other pitch that everything for him begins and ends with that slider. It's flattened out a little bit. It's gotten more side to side than it had been, and it's not allowed him to sort of get it down in a way to righties and underneath the bat of lefties for that back foot pitch.
Well, he allowed 16 earned runs in his last 3 starts. That last start coming against, as you saw, Minnesota Twins, after allowing just 5 earned runs in his first 4 starts. So it has been a different go. I'm curious to get your opinion on this because, you know, we talk about arm slots, and he really does drop down with that sweeping breaking ball. Do guys get a read on that, and the scouting report gets out that, you know, he's going to drop down and it's going to be a slider?
Yeah, it's significant. If you throw one pitch out of a different slot, it's easy for guys to key on that, and they can either be tipped off that it's coming and sit on it, or they can know that the slider's coming and go into auto take and not swing at it. So it's going to be difficult to get chases. So maybe the answer is raise the arm slot a little bit, but that might affect the shape of the breaking ball. I think what he needs to do is really throw some fastballs out of that arm slot and get guys off of strictly slider from the lower arm angle.
You saw it from a hitter's perspective, but say you have a really good 2 weeks as a hitter, and then all of a sudden you start struggling for a week. Do you go back and look at video of what you were doing when you were going good and seeing now maybe compare and contrast?
Absolutely, and you're not necessarily chasing results. You're not looking for one good pitch or one good swing and trying to duplicate it, but you're looking for patterns, things that are maybe off from pitch to pitch to pitch that you're not necessarily doing now. So going back and looking at your successful outings or your successful at-bats, it's a really good baseline to get you back to where you need to be.
In the regular season, Colin McHugh has pitched against the Kansas City Royals 18 innings. He has never allowed an earned run. Hang with us, much more to come as the Astros take on the Kansas City Royals. It's House Astros versus House Royals. It's Game of Thrones night. Talk about a busy stretch of baseball coming up for the Astros next on the Astros pregame presented by Toyota. Astros pregame on AT&T Sportsnet is brought to you by Kubota, driven by perfectionists, and by Metro Rail. Take the train to the game. You know, Friday in Mexico, the Astros had a day off, and that was the only day off in a 27-day stretch. 26 games in 27 days. That's a tough go right there.
Yeah, and having the off day on the road creates as much of a mental grind as it does physical.
And an it was an off day, but you know, you had things to do with MLB, and it was an international game. It was different, so it wasn't your typical.
Lots of events, appearances, just things to do. The guys weren't sleeping in and laying in bed all day down in Mexico. They were out, at the very least, go out and see the city.
You know, right now what the Astros have to be really optimistic about is the teams that they have played. It was the toughest schedule in baseball, given the opponent's winning percentage in the month of April. So they have come through that with flying colors. You feel like they haven't played their best baseball yet. But as the players say, this is a very busy stretch.
You got to take care of yourself. You know, you got to get your rest where you can. Make sure you stay hydrated. Do all the things that that your body is telling you need. Take a day when you need a day in terms of whether it's taking a day from conditioning or taking a day from lifting. You can't crush it every day and then expect to be fresh, you know, throughout the course of a 162-game season.
You know, it's important for us to get back in our routine and keep the winning ways going. We've done a good job of coming out of a few ruts here and there and playing a little bit better. Mexico was fun. There's a great high adrenaline rush that comes with playing in Mexico, and hopefully we can carry that into a really good homestand.
It's a tough schedule. I think we play 26 and 27 days, so
you got to be able to take care of your body and, not overdo it out there on the field when you're doing practice and all this stuff in order for you to be able to go out there and perform every single night.
Around the league, everybody, every team has stretches like this where it's 24 out of 25 or, 28 out of 30 or something like that, where it just feels long. It feels long, and it helps when you're playing well. It helps when you ride those 10-game winning streaks out like we did earlier in the season. But, for the most part, you're going to have to just focus on winning series, winning single games and winning series. And if you can do that, at the end of the season, your record kind of takes care of itself.
Take 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4. Yeah, good things do happen. Springer, Altuve, and Bregman, the top 3 in the lineup. Brantley's in left. Carlos bats 5th at shortstop, of course. Tyler White is the designated hitter. Aledmys Diaz gives Yuli Gurriel a night off. He's at first base. Robbie Chirinos is behind the dish. So Jake Marisnick starts tonight in center field. I want to talk to you about Carlos Correa, whose average is now up to 306. Those things happen when you have 16-game hitting streaks.
Yeah, when you've been hot for almost 3 weeks now, your numbers tend to inflate a little bit. But I heard AJ talking about Carlos after the game yesterday, and somebody asked, what is it that's working for him? And AJ's response was that he's just hitting. And that's a great feeling as a hitter when you stand in the batter's box and you're just there to hit. You're not working on anything. You're not trying to find a feel for anything. You're just reacting.
And you and I talked about it last night. Away, he's extending his arms, and he does damage. In, he's able to turn on stuff. And right now with that 16-game hitting streak, that is the longest streak since Jose Altuve's 19-game hitting streak in 2017. Those are the longest Astro streaks, not ever, but the longest Astro streaks since 2012. So Carlos Correa, just keep on doing what you're doing. Hitting 333 right now during that hitting streak, and I just don't know how you get him out right now.
I have no answer for that, and I don't think the pitchers do either. Take it last night, for example, we saw him turn on a hanging breaking ball. We saw him take a breaking ball down and away out of the zone and poke it the other way for a base hit. Good pitches, mistake pitches, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, last night he homered in the second inning. That was back-to-back games in which he's homered. He's done that twice at back-to-back games in which he's homered twice during this 16-game hitting streak. Back with more here on the pregame show. We'll take a closer look at the Royals lineup. Former SFA Lumberjack. Then again, once you're a SFA Lumberjack, you're always an SFA Lumberjack. Hit a home run last night. Back with more in a moment.
Astros pregame on AT&T Sportsnet is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places.
The Royals came in after losing 2 out of 3 to the Tigers. They had 14 extra base hits in that 3-game series, and they went yard again last night. Dozier, that's a big fly right there.
Yeah, Dozier's been killing the ball all season. He's on top of the American League in just about every offensive category you can think of, but this one, man, Mondesi, big one.
What did Altuve tell us at batting practice? He said that sounded bad.
Yeah, he said
it. He goes, when I heard the sound of it, I said, uh-oh.
Yeah, he heard it from second base and knew it was gone.
So let's take a look at the lineup today. Whit Merrifield leads it off. Mondesi's in that 2-hole, followed by Alex Gordon. Hunter Dozier from Stephen F. Austin State University, leading the American League in hitting at 348. Ryan O'Hearn's from Sam Houston State. They play in the Battle of the Piney Woods, don't you know?
That's a big rivalry. Yeah,
big
Piney
rivalry.
Woods.
Yeah, you got Sam Houston, you got Lumberjacks, you got Bearcats. Martin Maldonado, the former Astro, he's in the 8th spot, and then Billy Hamilton is in center field. Danny Duffy gets the start today for the Kansas City Royals. This is the guy that started the season on the 10-day DEL, or IL, sorry. But what do you expect to see from him?
Well, he's the veteran anchor of a young pitching staff, and he's been around for a while. Kind of a bounce-back year after he got off of the IL. He's put up good numbers. The velocity is still there. The slider, curveball combo is working for him. But he hasn't had a ton of success against the Astros specifically in the past, so maybe it's a good matchup for the Astros, but he's pitched well this year.
450, he's been just about perfectly mediocre against the Astros in his career. 2-3 with that ERA of 4.50. Astros taking on the Kansas City Royals. Game 2 of a 3-game series, one day after number 27 turns 29. This was a couple hours ago. The Iron Throne is here tonight. It's Game of Thrones night. Robinson Chirinos. You know, that's what they fight over in Game of Thrones, is the Iron Throne.
I don't understand why. It doesn't look like a very comfortable chair.
It's kind of a thing. And I'm telling you, there is a line out the door. Actually, not out the door, but around the corner.
Big line.
Our Toyota keys to the game for people to sit in the Iron Throne. What do you got, Brian?
First key, work ahead, stay ahead. That's for Colin McHugh. Stay out of predictable counts where guys can look for certain pitches. The second one is, who's it going to be? It seems like the Astros get contributions from somebody different every game. Tyler White, Aledmus Diaz, Jake Marisnik. I'm going to say it's going to be one of them today because it wasn't them yesterday.
All right, that's a good way to look at it. That seems like everybody is contributing. That's how you win a lot of baseball games. That's what the Astros are doing right now. They go for their 4th consecutive win. He looks to extend his hitting streak, the longest of his career, to 17 games. It is the Astros and Royals. Todd Callis, Jeff Blum, Julian Morales have the call of the game from downtown Houston next on AT&T Sportsnet.